And this is our classroom.
May I stop you for a moment? I have to let everybody know I'm recording. I forgot to.
Okay. So everybody, if you were here with us, this is what our classroom looks like. And all the kids are reminiscing about math class as we speak, I'm sure. So Ms. Cardoza and I do have a little presentation for you that we would like to share. Kind of goes over what we do in our classroom. So if you could just pause for just a second, I'm going to bring that up for us. All right, here, share screen. Here we go. Can you guys see it okay? Is it up? Perfect, excellent. All right, so again, welcome to everybody. This is our classroom, and as Ms. Gary said, a lot of what we do, actually everything we do, focuses on our core values and beliefs here at Isaac. A big focus for us in the math classroom, of course, is not only the respect, but also the problem solving. A lot of what we do in the classroom is problem solving. And then secondary is a lot of perseverance, because we don't want our kids to give up. We have our vision of a graduate. So just like in all the classrooms, we do some writing, we do notes. The kids are learning how to take notes to prepare themselves for high school. We do a lot of accountable talk, believe it or not, in the math classroom. So you're going to hear the kids talk about accountable talk, and we have to do it in the math classroom, and they'll probably complain about it, but it's going to make them better learners and, of course, better speakers. I want to move on. We believe that all students can succeed with hard work and grit. And this is where we throw in that perseverance. It's so important for kids to learn how to persevere and work through the problems that they may experience in the math classroom. I wanted to put this up because it's so important. The materials that Ms. Cardoza and I would like all kids to have, either a binder or a notebook, and the binder, loose leaf paper. What we've been doing is we've been giving the kids some companion sheets that are 3-hole punch, so they can keep in a binder. So if they have that, it's helpful. If they have a folder, that's helpful as well. A scientific calculator, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Something small like from the Dollar Tree is fine. And a pen or a pencil. And that is so important because we do a lot of work in terms of writing in the classroom. And we've been giving out pens and pencils every single day. So if kids could come prepared with their pens and pencils, that's fine. And I say pens because some kids prefer writing with a pen. It's better to write with a pencil, but you know, as long as the kids are writing something, that's what we want. I did email everybody a copy of our syllabus. It's also posted in our Google Classroom. So this tells all of our parents and students about what we expect in the classroom, what grading is going to be like. And then you can also see what our units are going to be. And as you can see, we have algebra prep units. We're working on the foundations of algebra right now. So our current class is focusing on review concepts. And then going on to our algebra class, we're actually picking up where we left off at the end of last year for our grade 7 students. Google Classroom, I've mentioned it a couple times already. So Ms. Cardoza and I, we post our material in the Google Classroom. So all homework, we also upload the PowerPoint that we use every day. So if kids need to go back and look at some of the stuff that we covered, that's also posted. Homework is posted in there every day. Although we assign a worksheet, if kids are absent, they can certainly download it and print it and bring it in. And then also we have companion sheets that are posted there. So if the students may lose their companion sheets, they can always go back to their Google Classroom and get those companion sheets. This is what the Google Classroom looks like. So we have do nows, classwork, homework, review assignments, and assessments. Now they're posted not only in Google Classroom, but in PowerSchool. So we ask our parents to please check your child's progress regularly in their Power School, so you can make sure that your child is caught and it's up to date with all of their work. And if they're not up to date with all of their work, we have Dragon Time. So 3 days a week, we have about 45 minutes at the end of the day that we can work with some students if they need extra help in math. So they can work on any missing work and study, but if they require any extra help from either Ms. Cardozo or myself, they can come during Dragon Time and we can help teach them some concepts and go over some skills that they need some work on. And then there's my email, as well as Ms. Cardozo's email. So if you have any questions, by all means, please do not hesitate to reach out to either of us. We have a quiz tomorrow for algebra. We have a quiz tomorrow for our Algebra prep kids. And then for A Day, and then for B Day, we have it on Monday. So that's our class in a nutshell. Any questions? I think we have 2 minutes for questions. Is that about right, Ms. Gary?
Yes, that is about right. Any questions? Okay, if there isn't any questions, thank you so much. We're going to move on.
Everybody. Thank you.
We're going to move on to Mr. Barron. Well, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
I wanted to be quiet for Mr.
We still can't hear you.
Okay.
Good.
I guess the reason I don't have a presentation like Mr. Sheldon is because I don't know how to use technology, obviously. So, but you know, you can hear me now. So here we go. I'm just going to tell you what we're going to do in social studies this year. First, I'm going to focus on the skills we're going to focus on. We're going to use informational text, you know, history and those kind of things. We're going to focus on the U.S. Constitution. We're going to think about the author's credibility and the perspective they're coming from when they write, how information is presented, summarizing the key points, and being able to find evidence from informational text. In terms of writing, we're going to start primarily with short explanatory writing, and then we're going to move on through the year to argumentative writing, and we're going to move from those short types of writing to writing full essays. We're also going to work a lot on public speaking, and Mr. Sheldon mentioned accountable talk. And of course, in history class and social studies, we're going to do a lot of accountable talk. The purpose of the social studies curriculum is not to teach a perspective on history, but to teach multiple perspectives on history so that the kids can develop their critical thinking skills and then make the decisions for themselves. But speaking is a big part of that, being able to talk to each other with differing opinions and maintain a respectful demeanor throughout. And that's what accountable talk is all about. Unfortunately, I haven't been at school as much as I would like to yet. That's about to change. And we're going to be focusing a lot more on accountable talk. That will eventually move to mock Congress, where we'll do debating and class presentations by the kids. Another skill we're going to focus on is our research skills. A lot of things on the internet these days, and it's pretty hard to tell what's truth and what's not. So we're going to think a lot about how to search effectively, how to use keywords, how to use what are called Boolean operators, which are ways you can focus your searches, and how to make sure we are looking at credible and reliable sources on the internet. And then we're going to use some of our research in our essays, in our argumentative essays. In the content department, we start looking at two of the major influences in American history and the founding of our country. One, the Enlightenment, the principles of the Enlightenment, and the other is racism. We'll look at how those two things influenced the founding of our country. And then we will move into the purposes and principles of our government and the structure of our government, looking at our Constitution. From then, we'll start to learn how our representatives in government are elected, and we'll do a mock Congress so that kids can understand how the legislative process works. From that, we will move into our rights, starting with the First Amendment. We'll combine that with history in the 19th century, when people used their First Amendment rights to end slavery. After that, we're going to get back into synthesizing our understanding of how race, as well as the principles of enlightenment, have impacted our country. We're going to focus on 19th century history, but we're also going to learn a little bit about the 20th century and those principles and, well, basically how they impacted our country all the way up to the modern day. In our final unit, the students will be able to do a self-directed project where they will create a plan of action for something that needs to change in our world and how they would go about changing it. And that's pretty much the content of the social studies this year. A lot of the basic classroom expectations, Google Classroom, have already been discussed, so I won't go there. And as far as the emails are concerned, all you got to do is put M. Barron in there instead of the whatever name the teacher is, and you'll find me. Looking forward to teaching all of your children this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Is there any questions for Mr. Barron? Okay, thank you.
Jeriel, no questions from Jeriel?
I feel like Jeriel must have had a question.
Okay, I'm going to let Mrs. Barbado go ahead and talk about science.
Sure, I would love to. Hi, everybody. I'm Mrs. Barbado. And Miss Amy, could you allow me to share my screen? This slideshow that I worked really hard on, and I want everybody to see it.
Go ahead, Ms. Barbado. You should be all set.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
While we're waiting.
Here we go. I got it. Oh, sorry. If you want to, Mr. Barron, you're more than welcome.
I was just going to remind kids that everybody that we need those computers to be charged every night. So we come in when fully charged computers.
Yes. All right. So 8th grade science. I am super stoked to have all of your kids this year. We are already been diving into magnets and electricity. So my expectations in my class, my kids know we've been going over there every single day, are to be respectful. And that I always tell them encompasses a lot of different things. Being on time, talking nicely to your classmates, and being prepared is super important. I don't allow phones. I will allow them for very, very little tiny things here and there, but they have all their computers, so we really shouldn't. And then to have fun, that's huge in my class. So for what we're doing this year, like I said, we're already been talking about forces and interactions, so magnets and electricity, and we do have presentations coming up next week. And then next week, Friday, and then following Monday, we'll have our test for that. And then we can get into Newton's laws. From there, we're moving on to waves and applications. So that is light waves and sound waves. From there, energy and heat, engineering and design, and then engineering in space. So this will give you a little bit more in detail about what each one is about. So our first project for our first unit is to pick an element, and they're going to present their findings on the scientists that founded that element. For the next one, for motion and stability, we're going to be, you're going to create a video of yourself demonstrating one of Newton's laws. I know, it's going to be great. Yes. From there, waves and applications, they are going to implement and design and show me, like just on a computer, not in real life, of how light waves are either reflected, absorbed, or transmitted. And then from there, Energizer Bunnies. It is another online presentation of showing me how energy is transferred and never lost or destroyed. And then the last two are super exciting. So we are going to build a bridge and see how much weight it can support. And then our very last thing is to build a rocket, and we're going to launch those. So those are for when it's much nicer outside and we can get outside in the elements a little bit. Oh, and the other project, or not project, but field trip that I was just discussing with today for NESS, I'm going to get the kids on sailboats, kayaks, and then also they're going to do, it's called Land Sailor, where they're going to learn like on land compass techniques. So I have a couple kids who are beyond excited about that, and I'm just thrilled to be able to offer that for them. Please let me know if you, as we get into these projects in the spring, if you feel like you need help, but I'm going to be working on GoFundMe and Donors Choose, so I hope none of that is going to even be an issue for anyone. Yep, and here's our field trip. So next month, before it gets too cold, we're going to go get on the water. And then hopefully in the spring, maybe February or March, we'll go up to the Science Center to look at that stuff. So these are my contact information. It's my Google Voice number. It goes straight to my cell phone. And then like Mr. Barron was saying, yep, I'm lbarbeto@isaacschool.org. So feel free to reach out for anything at all.
Thank you, Mrs. Barbato. Is there anybody have any questions?
Ms. Barbato, if you need chaperones for your field trips, we volunteer.
Perfect. Yes, you're hired.
I have kayaking experience.
Oh, good. Okay, if there aren't any questions, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Romani and Mr. Barron.
Hello, thank you all for being here. It's so nice to have such a great turnout. It's always hard doing virtual, knowing who's going to be able to show up, but we're really excited that everybody's here. I'm Mrs. Ramondi. This is Mr. Barron.
Hi guys, I'm Mr. Barron with one R. It's very nice to meet all you guys. I'm in 3 co-taught ELA classes, and I have 3 resource classes as well. I'm one of the teachers who helps provide direct and explicit instruction to some of your students. So it's very nice to meet you.
So just a little bit, I can show you our room. So this is the language arts room. That's our little library, growing on our board. Let me see if I can share my slides. So I don't want to be too redundant. Going at the end, a lot of kind of the housekeeping has already been covered. Can they see this?
10%.
Where?
On your right.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. It's a team effort over here. Okay, so we weren't sure how we were going to do this. We thought maybe Mr. Barron was going to be in another room, so that's why he's not on this slide, but we'll just go through a little bit about us. This is actually both of our first years at Isaac. This is a second career for me. I was an attorney before this and was not enjoying what I was doing. So I wanted to kind of move on and do something that I really enjoyed. I'm very excited to be working with all of your students. We've had a great year so far. I don't know if you want to give a little bit of background.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I've been in schools for the last 10 years. I started at Fitch High School as a paraprofessional, worked into co-teaching at Fitch High School, and then I did my student teaching at Ledyard High School. So I'm very familiar with education, and I'm very looking forward to this being my first year at Isaac, and it's off to a great start.
And I get to reap the benefit of all of Mr. Barron's experience. He's been invaluable so far as helping me with preparing things, modifying documents. And so I'm very fortunate to be working with him. So just wanted to go through our units a little bit. Like I said, a lot of the housekeeping as far as Google Classroom and Google PowerSchool goes has been covered. The same generally applies to our classroom. Anything that your student needs will be on Google Classroom or on PowerSchool. If anything is unclear, always please follow up with an email to one of us. We'd be happy to make sure that you understand better. So just a little bit about the content that we're going to be doing. Our first unit that we're in right now is all about identity, which is often a hot button topic with 8th graders who are kind of figuring out and forming their own identity. So we've had a lot of really fruitful conversation about that. We're using short stories to kind of ease our way into the school year and understand, what defines our identity and how authors use literary elements to create meaning in their short stories. Our second unit is going to be a novel called The Giver. It's a dystopian novel set in the future about this kind of seemingly perfect community where there's no war, no pain, no suffering, but that means no differences, no choices, and kind of seeing how a young boy navigates that when he's given the opportunity to kind of experience all of the things that his society doesn't offer him. Our third unit is going to be called Fighting Injustice. It's about the story of the Radium Girls. The Radium Girls I was just introduced to this summer, and I'm very excited to kind of share that information. It is this group of girls who during World War I, they were working in factories and they were exposed to very toxic radioactive elements. They were ingesting them in the way that they were supposed to be using them. And they started kind of, I don't know how to say this without being gross, like rotting from the inside out. And then they tried to sue the company. And the company, of course, said, not our issue, not our problem. But they fought and fought and fought and ended up, as a result of their court case, having OSHA established, which has kind of put in workplace protections for all of us. And so we're going to work on argumentation and argumentative writing. And so that'll be a really fun unit for us. And then our fourth unit is going to kind of be more in my wheelhouse. We're going to do a mock trial about a short story. Harrison Bergeron is the short story, another kind of dystopian, futuristic story where there's no differences in society. Everyone is perfect. Everything is the same, and kind of how that goes horribly wrong. We're going to use a lot of rhetoric. We're going to focus on different techniques as far as expressing yourself, how you prove your point, both in writing and verbally. And so we'll end up holding a big trial at the end. So that'll be a lot of fun. We are both very accessible.
Type our email in the chat.
Yeah, we'll put our email in the chat. We're both very accessible via email. So far, we've loved having all of your students. We're really excited for this year. We're really excited to dive back into everything. If you have any questions for us, please let us know at any time and we'd be happy to address them.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Romani or Mr. Barron? Okay, I'm going to turn it over then to Mrs. Patterson, our EL teacher, ML teacher.
So we did a presentation earlier that was in Spanish. So I am the English as a second language teacher for grades 6, 7, and 8, all of them. I push in to Mr. Sheldon with Miss Cardoza and Miss Ramondi and Mr. Barron's class. So I push in for math and LA. So I see some of your students, and I think I spoke to 3 of you today for advisory. So Gwendy, Alyssa, and Suleika. Hi. Now we have a name with a face. So nice to see you all. If you ever have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Patterson at this time? Okay, I'm going to open up the floor to senior Señor Sheldon. Sorry.
Gracias, señora Giri. Mucho gusto, bienvenidos y buenas noches a todos. Me llamo Señor Sheldon. So yes, there is Mr. Sheldon and Señor Sheldon here. So all the kids seem to be getting us straight now. So hopefully all of you at home will be able to do that as well. So welcome everybody. It's so nice to see you here. I actually have the luxury and the pleasure of doing two presentations tonight. So what I think I'll do is I'll do the Spanish presentation first, followed by my next presentation, only because I think my next presentation may elicit a few more questions than my Spanish presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen for my first presentation. Whoops. I don't want that one. I want this one. All right.
Senor, you're not sharing anymore.
Oh, what the heck happened? Sorry about that. There we go. Now are we sharing? All right. So again, my name is Senor Sheldon, and this is the Clase de Español. And I'm very, very happy to be here. This is my first year at Isaac, but it is my 27th year in education. I was at Norwich Free Academy for many, many years, and I heard such great things about Isaac from Mr. Sheldon that I decided that, you know what, I want to come here and teach at Isaac School. So my whole goal for the Spanish program this year, and truth be told, I am writing the curriculum as I go. Miss Shiano, who was doing Spanish last year, got me off to a really, really great start. But last year, as you all know, we were dealing with, virtual and hybrid and all that kind of stuff. So we are really hitting the ground running this year with a more true Spanish 1 curriculum. My goal here is to offer the students an experience this year so that when they go off to high school next year, whatever high school options there are for their Spanish class, to either get them started off at a higher level of Spanish, or at least this year give them a nice foundation so that their Spanish 1 class next year can be much more fruitful for them. So the unit 1 that we are really into right now is to talk about the very basic of things like introductions and numbers and family members, okay? Next, we're going to be starting pretty soon talking about what is the difference between the English and Spanish grammatical structures, and start getting a real understanding about what are the differences that make Spanish such a beautiful language, and how they differ from our own language here. And we've been talking about the influences of the Spanish language on Latin America, where most of our Spanish speaking students come from. So it's been a really, really nice start to the school year so far. We've been playing a lot of book it games. So that was new to me this year. So I've been having some fun with the students, reviewing some Spanish while having some fun at the same time. As we move more and more through the units, we'll be becoming more and more grammatical based as we start learning some of the real nuances within the Spanish language, such as how to conjugate verbs, how to express things that students like to do or love to do, how adjectives work in the Spanish language, because there's a very different use of adjectives in Spanish than what we have here in our own English language. Of course, we'll be doing some culture as well. I'm hoping to get our dance teacher, Miss Grundy, in class to help us learn some mambo dancing as we go along. So hoping to put some music and some dance along in this unit as well. The next unit, the verb tener. I love the verb tener. There are so many fun uses of the verb tener in Spanish. We're going to continue learning how to conjugate those verbs in the present tense so students can learn to say about things that they are doing. We're going to learn about how football is such an important aspect of much of the Latin American cultures, and also many cultures across the world, not just Latin American cultures. And we'll be studying more about Mexico and Latin America in Unit 3. For Unit 4, we're going to move on to verbs that we call ER and IR verbs. And we're going to learn also in Spanish, what is the difference between the verb to be ser, the verb to be estar. And again, looking at now food, my favorite topic. Those of you at home who have moms and dads and abuelas and abuelos who love to cook some food, we're going to be doing some food tasting in class. As hopefully it'll be allowed by then. So as long as it's allowed by then, we'll be doing some fun food tasting. And then we're going to end off the year getting into, again, a little bit more of the more difficult structures of the Spanish language, again, in hopes of getting the students comfortable with the basics, the foundations of Spanish, in order to move on to a higher level of Spanish when they get into school next year. As we all know that most colleges these days are requiring 2 to 3 years of a foreign language. In Connecticut, it is now mandatory to have 1 year of foreign language at the high school level to graduate from high school. So hopefully I'm giving the students the basis they need this year so that when it really counts next year in high school, they are at a much better place to be than if they didn't have Spanish at all. And then depending on time, hopefully we can get to Unit 6 and, you know, just one more time, a few more things to get under their belts before they leave me at the end of their 8th grade year. So this is what my Spanish classroom looks like. Every single day, I do post the daily lessons. So if students are absent or if they just want to review what happened in class today, all they need to go is to go to my Google Classroom and look for their class, and it is posted on a daily basis. Homework is also on the Google Classroom. I also send reminder emails to students the day before homework is due, reminding them what the homework assignment is. And students have 2 days to get homework done because Spanish, like any other class, only meets every other day. And most students do have a study hall. Most students have dragon time during the week. So there's no excuse not to get the homework done. I'm sure your students may have gone home and talked about Senior Sheldon's Quicksies. A Quickie is basically just a homework check. So homework is always worth 10 points. 5 points is from the students doing the written homework, and the other 5 points comes from their ability to show me that they understood and learned the homework by doing this little Quickie that we do at the very beginning of every class. So that is how Google Classroom works for me here. And I do my very best to update PowerSchool as often as possible. So please, you know, if you have the PowerSchool app and you have the alerts set up, you will see that grades are being input there as much as we possibly can. Okay. So what do I want from my students? ¿Qué quiero para mis estudiantes? I'm hoping that what they take from Isaac and they're able to help them to be the best student they can be, including the accountable talk and the competencies that we have here at Isaac for our vision, the Isaac graduate, that they understand the importance of becoming bilingual, both in the professional world and in their personal lives, and that they are able to move on to a more advanced level of Spanish next year, whether it's an Honors 1, a Spanish 2, or for some of our students here who already have a solid background because they are native speakers of Spanish, perhaps a native speakers course, depending on the high school they go to and what those offerings are. And most importantly, I just want them to enjoy their time in class. So that is what I have for the Spanish part of my presentation. Are there any questions from anybody? All right, then what I'd like to do is I would then, if it's okay with you, Miss Gary.
Yes, please.
All right. My other role here at Isaac this year is working with 8th grade students on high school transition. Okay, so I'm going to be working with students this year on helping them decide which, in collaboration with moms and dads and the parents, guardians at home, working with you to try and determine what is the best option for high school for your student for next year. Okay, on October 8th, I am going to be meeting with all of the 8th grade students, and I'm going to be going through this presentation with them. And I'm going to share this with you right now. So this presentation basically is going to be talking to the students about what all of their options are for high school next year. And there are a lot of them. So for many of our students who come from towns outside of New London, of course, they have their hometown high school that they'll be able to choose from to go to next year. Of course, we have our tech schools, Norwich Tech and El Grasso Tech, both schools which are by application process. So we'll be talking about what that application process entails. I'm going to be giving students this PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to be putting this PowerPoint presentation also on the Isaac website. So parents at home, if you would like to, you can go through this PowerPoint presentation, and there's links to all of the schools that I'll be discussing with them that bring them to each of the web pages for these schools. So you and your child can get a more in-depth understanding of what each of these schools have and what they have to offer, as well as a link to their application side. If there's an application process to get into this school, I put a link on there also so you understand what the application process is. So those are the two tech schools that most of our students tend to apply to just because of the locality of them, Grasso and Norwich Tech. Of course, we have the magnet options. New London this year is the first year that they went to a complete magnet school district. So there are 3 pathways that high school students can choose from: the visual and performing arts pathway, the STEM pathway, and the international education pathway. Students will have to choose their first, second, and third choice, very similar to like they choose their first, second, third option for shop in a tech school. And it's all by lottery basis at the magnet school. Of course, there's the Marine Science Magnet School in Groton, and also the Art and Capitol Theater, or the ACT School, that's located in the Willimantic area. So those are the magnet school options that all of our students have. And again, I made website pages here for every single one of those schools with links to the actual schools and their application information on how to actually apply for those schools. And then, of course, there are the vocational, the private, and the Catholic high schools in the area, such as St. Bernard Catholic High School in Montville, St. Thomas More Private School, that's in Oakdale, the Ledyard VOAG, or the Agri-Science Program in Ledyard, Connecticut, and also the Williams School right here in New London, that's part of Conn College. So I also, again, gave all these different web pages here with all the different websites that you guys can click on and go to and visit and look at the application process, all in a process of trying to determine, where do I think I want to go to high school next year? So on October 8th, I'll be giving this presentation to our 8th grade students. And from there, they will be filling out a Google form for me to start giving me an idea about where they think they might want to go to high school next year, their first, second, and third choice. And then from there, the fun will begin. That's when I'll be meeting more with students in small groups or one-on-one to talk about these schools. We'll be inviting some of these schools to come to Isaac to give presentations, and we will be inviting parents to those presentations. And some of them will be virtual presentations where links will be sent out to students and families as well, so that you get a much better idea about how to help your child and decide as a family together where they think they might want to go to school for next year. Okay, so a lot of this will be happening during the advisory time, because I don't want to take kids out of classes. Just so that some of you may not know, but the advisory program and the Dragon Time program, that's how our students end their day here at Isaac. 2 days a week, they attend what's called an advisory, and that's where they work with one teacher for the entire year, working on things like social, emotional well-being, team building. That's just a really nice time where this group of students spend this time together, getting to really know one another, building that culture, building that positive environment, all with one teacher that they'll have for the whole year, guiding them and directing them and working along with them. That same teacher on the other 3 days of the week helps them with Dragon Time. Now, Dragon Time is like a modified study hall. At this time, the Dragon Time teacher will look at Power School to try and help kids decide, where am I missing work? What do I need to do? Why didn't it need to get made up? And kind of like give the student that little bit extra kick, if you will, to get some of that work done and made up. Dragon Time is also a time when students can go to other teachers for things like extra help or to make up tests or quizzes that they may have missed during an absence. So we have that every single day, the last period of the day, so that students always end Isaac on a very positive note with one of their teachers. So again, my name is Senor Sheldon, and you can reach me at bsheldon@isaacschool.org. Or if you have a question that you'd like me to reach out to by phone, you can just call the Isaac School main number, leave them a message, and I will be sure to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And that is my transition presentation, Miss Geary.
Nicely done. I'm really impressed with actually all of you and your presentations tonight. Is there any questions for any of our educators? Okay. I see that Miss LaFrance joined us. Miss LaFrance, did you want to say a few words to the 8th grade
Hello,
parents?
I'm Miss LaFrance. I'm one of the actually 6th and 7th grade co-taught language arts, but I do have an 8th grade advisory, and that's why I popped on here today, just to say hi to any parents that might be out there and see what the guidance counselor stuff in the high school opportunities were going to be.
I'm glad you could join us. Mrs. Grundy is here too, our dance teacher. Mrs. Grundy, did you want to say a few words?
Hi, I'm happy to. I'm actually in my classroom right now, which is the stage. So I'm super excited to be teaching our students on stage this year in person. It's been really great. I teach theater and dance, and I would love to tell you all a little bit more about that. So I'm going to, Miss Geary, can I share my screen?
I think you can.
Okay, fabulous. So I am going to get ready to do that right here. All right. There we go. Let me just hit this button. All right, so I get to teach theater, musical theater, and dance. And so this year in theater, these are the units that we're going to be doing. We've started our Theater 101 unit, which is so much fun. We are learning all about the different elements of theater by devising fairy tales. That means we're creating our own skits based on fairy tales, and we're learning about the elements of theater while we're doing it. After we do that, we're going to move on to improv, monologue, and scenes. And then following that, we're doing a playwriting unit. And we have an opportunity to submit to the Eugene O'Neill Young Playwrights Festival, which I did with some students last year, and it was wonderful. After that, we're gonna learn all about technical theater. So I'm a big believer that theater is way more than just what you see on stage. It's all about the magic that happens backstage as well. So we get to learn about the elements of technical theater, and we get to put that into practice with a theater lab unit where we will be making set pieces, props, things like that, costumes, and we will be using those in our spring musical. To finish out the year, we're going to do theater's greatest hits, and we'll learn about some of the famous modern American plays that I feel like all students should know about. So that is theater. I'm going to quickly go to, oh, right click's got me again. There we go. I'm going to quickly go to musical theater. So in musical theater, we are doing a unit right now, Musical Theater 101. Right now we're learning a song from Aladdin, Arabian Nights. And we're learning how to sing, dance, and act to tell a story in that song. After we do that, we're working on a unit called When Emotion is Too Great for Words. It's basically why on earth people burst out into song in musicals. We're discovering that. And I'm very excited because we are going to get to work with some virtual classes from the world famous Goodspeed Opera House, which is a regional theater that's right here in our backyard and produces incredible theater. So we are working with their education department on a show called Rags, which is all about immigration. And we're going to be learning about songs and working with some Broadway professionals through these workshops in our next unit. After that, we'll be doing musical preparation part 1 and part 2, where we are actually rehearsing our spring musical right here in class, right during school. We'll cast it from the students. They'll all have a part to play, and we will be rehearsing that, which will happen April 7th and 8th, right here in class. Following that, we will do Musical Theater's Greatest Hits, where we get to learn about some of the most famous musicals in the Broadway canon. All right, so now I'm gonna carry us on to dance. So dance is, right now we're doing dance fundamentals. So we're learning all about the basics of dance, and we're doing that by learning a piece of dance, a piece of choreography, and we're learning rhythm, tempo, we're learning dance vocabulary, actual steps. We've been having a lot of fun. The next unit is dance expression, where we learn about individual and community expression through dance. Following that, we're learning about the Nutcracker, the classic ballet, and we're learning about some of the other ways the Nutcracker has been interpreted. There's a hip hop Nutcracker, there's a Duke Ellington Nutcracker, so we're also learning about those as well. After that, we're learning about tap dance with Tapping Through Time, where we'll discover some of the history of tap dance and how it's actually a blend of dances. And then following that, we're doing Give Us the Story, how musical theater dance tells a story. So we'll be learning about the storytelling that happens there, finishing out the year with Performance Ready. So we get ready for our dance performance. Speaking of performances, I have a few dates for you. So these are the performance dates that we have right now. Some of these may be very informal shares, where we're just sharing a little bit about what we've been learning, but this is what we have on the calendar for right now. And so if you want to take note of those dates, they're here. They're also in the syllabus that I created for each class. And then if you ever need to contact me, here's my information. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions and talk with you about your student. I have had such a great time meeting them and seeing all that they bring to our classes. It's been really great. And that's it. And if anybody has any questions, you can reach out to me or you can ask me now.
Thank you, Mrs. Grundy. I'm looking forward to the musical in the spring. I'm definitely going to be there.
Oh, awesome.
So our phys ed teacher is here tonight. Mr. Keene, do you want to say a few words?
I would love to. My classroom is the gym, but I'm right next to Miss Grundy, and I hear Arabian Nights every day, and it just keeps getting better and better. The kids are crushing it, and they're enjoying it as well. And I have access to share my screen. I have a little presentation for you all. All right. Click present. So I'm the health and phys ed teacher. My name is Billy Kane. I've been at Isaac for this is my second year, but first year of real PE in person. It's finally nice to be in the gymnasium. So just some units that we do in class. My first unit is kind of exercise in disguise, kind of tricking all the students at Isaac to exercise, but with some motivation, as you can see with these pictures right here. And ultimately, it's important to get ready for the fitness testing that will happen next month and at the end of the year to see progress throughout that. Second unit, I get asked a lot when I'm playing volleyball, when I'm playing basketball. So the second unit, net and wall games, because they all have similar strategies. That will be through January through March. And I have some pictures of what I've done this year in the top right, a lot of cooperation games that require students to work well together and communicate, because that is the foundation in sports, working well, sportsmanship, teamwork, because ultimately that's how we are successful in sports. And I think that's a big component. And it's not only in sports, there's also games where I have students find an X and they have 10 seconds to find an X. And sometimes there's more X's than students. And it just takes cooperation, talking to each other in the end. And then here's the basketball unit that every day a student asks me, can we play basketball? So March through May, because around March Madness is when that time, I feel like that is one of the best times to do it. And I believe in skill development because normally we all like things that we are good at. You know, I know Mr. Sheldon likes math because he is good at math. So that's kind of, I'm about the process approach. So making practice makes perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect in the end. And then finally, lifelong physical activity, you know, games such as can jam, cornhole that you can play at a cookout and get better at, so you can hopefully beat your family in it and everyone's very impressed with you. So things that'll keep you active throughout life in the long run. And then health education. So health will take place in Q2. I believe that's October through January where health will take place. And this is for all grades, the health triangle. The health triangle consists of mental, physical, and social health, kind of goes hand in hand with advisory. And why is every student required to take phys ed or dance? Because physical health is so important. Social and emotional health, those components, and mental health. I think in the end, these three together make the health triangle, and this is the foundation of health. And then for 7th grade, substance use prevention, preventing students from using substances, but telling them the facts, teaching them, you know, there's a lot of myths out there that they don't know, and kind of just giving them the core concepts of those, because there's so much out there, whether it be on social media, that can be misleading. And then finally, for 8th grade is advocacy, students being able to advocate throughout Isaac, healthy tips and values and interests that not only enhance their personal wellness, but the students in the community of Isaac as well. So phys ed is quarters 1, 3, and 4, and health will take place in Q2. And then just any questions that anyone may have for me. If not, it's okay. I probably covered everything that there is about health and phys ed. So that's it for me.
Miss Grundy, they're also practicing in my class too. So we hear a lot of the Arabian Nights.
Really?
I love it. Yes, it's so cute.
I'm so impressed. Thanks.
Mrs. Stewart, do you have a question?
Yes, and I've been back and forth between 6th grade and 8th grade, so it might have already been said, but I was just curious if we know who is coaching fencing.
I think Mr. Regan, I believe, Tucker. Yeah, he's the go-to guy, the social worker at the school.
Yes, I saw him over in the 6th grade.
Yes, I think it's tentative right now.
Cool.
That would be my best guess. I have never fenced before in my life, so I'm not the guy for that.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Comments? Well, I just want to thank you all for participating in tonight's back to school virtual night here at Isaac. We're really excited about this school year, having the kids back in the building. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Collectively, we're all enthusiastic about getting your kids here and teaching them. And we're really excited about this school year. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we'll see all your students tomorrow. Good night.
Teachers, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.